All right, now's that time on the ground. We got to check in. We're gonna be doing these, of course, all year. Checking in with what's going on the Bengals' opponent every week, and it's a great opportunity for me to head out to Boston to check in with a great friend of the program, trolling Ben Volin. I believe Ryan Wilson, our good mutual friend, gave you that name. I believe has really leaned into it, and I always think of it every time. Every time I have a chance to meet up with you.
You know what? I got to say, it's the perfect nickname. The rhyming. I embrace the role of troll here in New England. So you know what? I say bring it on, and really appreciate you having me today, Paul. This is going to be a fun week one game for us, I think.
Yeah, it is. The Boston Globe, of course, been covering the NFL since '07, the Globe since 13. Finally, it's always nice when I stumble into somebody who's been covering the league longer than me these days. It's like there's just a couple of old hacks trying to keep it rolling here, but you have seen a lot. You've certainly seen a lot more than we've seen here in Cincinnati over the course of your time here. But the tables have turned. If you want to know about what it's like to cover a team that has very low expectations and an angry fan base on day one, I have lots of notes from my time here. If you need that, what is exactly the state of the Patriots right now in terms of are the vibes very low? Is there angst already, or is there an optimistic hope sort of swirling around?
No, I'll tell you what, Paul. There is no optimism here in a lot of realistic fans. I think
Yeah.
last year, coming off a 4-13 season, the Patriots offense was dreadful. They were dead last, actually tied with the Giants for dead last in points scored. And it was the fewest points any teams had scored in 12 years in the NFL. So Patriots fans, I think, are pretty realistic about the state of the franchise right now. I see the over/under win totals about 4.5. I think it's the lowest in the NFL. You know, listening to talk radio, reading my emails, the comments on the articles, no one's saying, "Oh, you guys are underestimating this team. They're going to surprise." Like everyone understands that this team is really pretty devoid of talent on the offensive side of the football. Just starting over fresh with this new coaching staff led by Jerod Mayo, but also a guy you know pretty well, the offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, who was there in Cincinnati for a few years. So completely new on that side of the ball. A few new receivers. They drafted this kid Jalen Polk out of Washington in the second round. They signed KJ Osborne from Minnesota. To me, he's going to be like a physical slot presence that Juju Smith-Schuster was supposed to be, but just injuries, I think, finally caught up with Juju. But no, I mean, it's really low expectations here. I hear from fans all the time, like they've got their fantasy teams, their survivor pools. They have other ways to stay engaged with the Patriots. And, you know, you go through the schedule and you try to check off wins and losses, and it's hard to find where the wins are going to come from. Now, there's going to be some games where there are quarterback injuries. It's only natural. They're going to face some backups. The Patriots defense is probably good enough to keep them competitive and to maybe steal a few wins, but it's really hard to see where the wins are going to be coming from on the Patriots schedule. And I think, frankly, a lot of fans are hoping they get another top 5 pick because this team's still a year or two away. They need a left tackle. They need a number 1 receiver. They need a lot more pieces now on offense. So definitely low expectations here in New England. And yeah, a polar opposite from what it was for 20 years under Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, so weird to be sitting here talking to you, not talking about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, as I'm sure it is for you. But the quarterback situation, obviously, they shift and they're going to go with Jacoby Brissett over Drake May. Did they get it right? And what did you see from Brissett to in through camp to make you think that he's the right call to go with right now potentially?
I think they did get it right with Jacoby Brissett. There is no reason to rush Drake May into the lineup. You get no extra points for having Drake May as your week 1 starter. There's so much more downside. He could lose confidence. He could get injured. You do not want an Anthony Richardson situation where he plays 4 games and then he spends the rest of his rookie season rehabbing. I mean, you got to get Drake May to the finish line here. So Jacoby Brissett, they got it right. A veteran guy who knows Alex Van Pelt's system well, was handpicked by Van Pelt to come in and be the caretaker of the offense. Brissett started 11 games with Van Pelt and the Browns in 2022 when Deshaun Watson was serving his suspension. He went 4-7, so it wasn't like he lit the world on fire. But I think Van Pelt and the coaching staff, many of whom are now here in New England, they just grew to really appreciate Jacoby Brissett's steadiness. He's pretty careful with the football. Believe it or not, Jacoby Brissett is tied with Aaron Rodgers for the lowest interception percentage in NFL history. It's only like 1% of his passes have been picked off in his career. So he's always been very careful with the ball. Might not be pushing it downfield. There might not be a ton of dynamic plays. But if he can at least minimize the mistakes, they're going to run the ball a lot of play action, and then let their defense keep them in games. That could be a formula for success for Brissett and the Patriots. He started off training camp clearly as the best quarterback. Drake May, frankly, I thought not only did he struggle, but the Patriots have a second rookie. They drafted Joe Milton out of Tennessee in the 6th round. In the first couple of weeks of camp, I don't think you could tell much of a difference between Drake May and Joe Milton. Now, Drake, I think, really excelled towards the latter half of training camp, really made a push and made the decision a lot more difficult for the Patriots than I think they maybe expected, because it seemed obvious that Brissett would be the week 1 starter, but the announcement, they made it way more complicated than it had to be. It was a very clunky announcement. Jerod Mayo even said that Drake May, outplayed Jacoby Brissett. And it's like, gee, thanks. Way to put a lot of confidence in your starter there. So that was one where maybe Mayo wished he had a mulligan on his comments or added a little more context. But they did get the decision right. There's not all, I don't know how much patience people are going to have for Jacoby Brissett. I mean, the minute that he throws a pick, people are going to be screaming, let's see what Drake May can do. So Jacoby's just going to have to hold off Drake for as long as he can. I'm looking at it. Their first 4 games are pretty tough. At Cincinnati, home against Seattle, maybe you could steal a win there, but then at Jets on a Thursday night, and then at San Francisco. So that's a really difficult stretch. Let Drake sit and watch, and let Jacoby Brissett get beat up. That's why you brought him in. Let him watch how Jacoby Brissett handles the media, handles his weekly prep, handles getting beat up. And then maybe, week 5, you come home, you play Miami. Maybe that's a good time to switch to the rookie. That said, I mean, the offensive line is a mess. Jacoby Brissett already suffered one shoulder injury at the end of the preseason because the offensive line gave up a free shot to the Commanders' defensive line. So Drake May is going to have to be ready. I mean, there's no guarantee that Jacoby Brissett's going to be healthy and emerge from these games healthy and ready to go. So we could see Drake May pretty early. That's usually what happens with these top 3 drafted picks. But the Patriots did get it right. Jacoby Brissett is absolutely the right pick to start the season. There's no reason to rush Drake May into the lineup.
Well, I wonder if Alex Van Pelt might pull out some old film from Cleveland where Jacoby Brissett, maybe one of his best games that year was a walloping of the Bengals on Halloween night, where he was really good and good. It wasn't spectacular, but more than good enough for them to get a blowout win. And it's like, I think that's the thing, right? You got a baseline there, kind of what you're gonna get. And you're not going to get your rookie quarterback getting beat up. How bad is this offensive line? I mean, I feel like I've heard that a lot, and you see that a lot. And is it a total liability at this point where there's, or is there just guys hurt? Where does that stand?
First of all, I think there is a talent issue. They don't have a certain, locked in left tackle. That was one position in the draft they kind of neglected. They went quarterback receiver with their first 2 picks, which I think they probably should have. I mean, that's in today's NFL, you got to have the receivers and you got to have the quarterback. So Elliott Wolf, I think, did a good job of addressing those positions. But then their plan for left tackle is curious. I mean, they drafted this kid, Caden Wallace, out of Penn State. Only played right tackle in 4 years. He never once lined up on the left side. And then they signed this guy, Chuks Okorafor, who was a right tackle in Pittsburgh, has never played left tackle in the NFL. So that's your big plan for left tackles, 2 guys who've never really played the position before. Now, they say the switching from right to left, that can be overrated and a good athlete can do it. And maybe they're right. But right now, there's clearly a concern about left tackle. And then if you watch the last preseason game against the Commanders a couple Sundays ago, it was a disaster. And it's not necessarily because of talent. It was a unit that looked like it had never played together. There were guys running into each other. Drake May is getting stepped on. He lost a shoe on one snap. There were fumbled center exchanges. Like I said, Jacoby Brissett suffered an injury because they neglected to block a guy, and he got a free shot on Jacoby Brissett. So, like, that's not talent. That's just practice. And look, it's a new offense, completely new scheme, new coaches, new players. It's not going to look like the 49ers in week one. I think we all understand that. But that's another reason why I think it was really smart to sit Drake May. Like, this team needs a few weeks to still figure out the personnel on the offensive line and to get these guys just some reps together, because the Patriots all throughout training camp have just been kind of rotating and mixing and matching and have not really settled on a starting five. And, one thing Bill Belichick always said was that the first month of the season is kind of an extension of the preseason. And I think that especially rings true for the Patriots this year. They've got to figure out who their top receivers are going to be, who's going to be their left tackle, what's the five, guys on the offensive line. Ideally you can keep everyone healthy and figure those things out. But of course, injuries always get in the way in the NFL. So they need to use these first few weeks just to figure out what they have on the offensive side of the ball, and then maybe you can consider putting Drake May in there.
Well, I'll get you out of here, but I have to say, all of this negativity about, not from you, but about the team surrounding the team. What's a path to some wins? Give some optimism out there. How do the Patriots win games? Where's their strength?
Well, again, the injuries really have to break their way. They got to keep guys healthy. If they start digging into backups and playing rookies, and Drake May is playing in front of a patchwork offensive line, like 2-15 could be in play for this team. It could be really bad. But if they can stay healthy, they run the 2 tight end offense with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. A lot of play action. Jacoby Brissett doesn't throw picks, makes it safe. And then, the defense, which I don't think people are talking about the defense either. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of the same guys from last year, and the Patriots have always had a good defense, but hello, they don't have Bill Belichick anymore. There's no one better at diagnosing problems and fixing them in the middle of the game than Bill Belichick. That said, if they can play some defense, run the ball control, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then hope that the other team has some injuries at quarterback too, and that you're playing some backups. I mean, we all thought they'd be playing Aaron Rodgers twice last year, and they played Zach Wilson twice. So, that's the path, is that the other team has some injuries. You're healthy. You can play it safe, keep it close in the fourth quarter, and then maybe steal a game 16-13. It's not going to be pretty. But, if that is the path to winning 4, 5, 6 games.
Wow. If I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times. In the modern NFL, 3 yards in a cloud of dust and the other team's decimated by injuries. It's the secret sauce to the Super Bowl.
On a marketing campaign for the Patriots.
That's it. Ben, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hosting you back here at Cincinnati again. We've got look, we've come a long way even since you guys were last here, I guess, 2019, the last trip to Cincinnati, which was a great game where mascots ran over kids at halftime in an epic display. And the Bengals were so poor that year that I chose to write about the mascots trucking a bunch of kids. And it was one of my favorite stories I've ever been able to do. Last time you guys were here, a little more excitement, and maybe we'll focus on the actual football game at this point.
Yeah, so wear your sunglasses for this orange out too. It's going to be very intense.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Orange on Sunday.
It's going to be a lot to handle. Appreciate it, Ben. Thanks for the time, man. And we'll see you this weekend.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks.